born free.
And we will die free.
The time in between, though,
that's complicated.
In that time, governments, institutions, and our egos will limit our ability to find true freedom in this life. These are real stories of real people overcoming the odds, persevering in justice, and unlocking their potential. Welcome to Finding Freedom. Here's your host, John Oderman.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Freedom right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Excited to have you back. Excited to have you watching, listening, however you're consuming this podcast. We are happy you're listening here at Lions of Liberty. Of course, if you've been, in hibernation over the winter, maybe you're just coming back out onto the podcast scene for the summer months. Maybe you're digging through your podcast feed and you stumbled across good old Lions of Liberty again for the first time. We have some changes here. Some changes, of course. We have now 4 or 5 shows per week, and we have 2 new hosts. Of course, we got the same old with myself on Mondays with Finding Freedom and Brian McWilliams on Wednesdays with Mean Age Daydream. But we added the comedian, the great Lou Perez, every Tuesday here on Lions of Liberty with the Lou Perez podcast. And every Thursday, Brian Nichols with the Brian Nichols Show. And if that's not enough, every other Friday, you get an episode of our new show, Politics, a tick like the blood-sucking insect that all politicians are. Every other Friday with, you might get some of the shows with me and Brian and Lou and Brian. You might get all 4 of us. Sometimes, like the last episode, you might just get 2 of us. Still an awesome show we had, myself and Brian Nichols, talking about all sorts of awesome topics. If you missed that, go and check it out on the Lions of Liberty Network feed. I'll get into the show in a minute. Got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about. Some stuff that I predicted came true in the nuclear industry, and I'll get to that in a minute. Before I do, this show brought to you by my friends at Fox & Sons Coffee. My friend Stephen Fox started this coffee business to bring delicious coffee to your doorstep and to teach the ideas of entrepreneurship to his kids, and also to reminisce and think back on the times growing up drinking coffee with his own father. Steve's an entrepreneur, great guy, good personal friend, and he makes awesome coffee. So support a like-minded guy, somebody who loves liberty, loves freedom, and loves entrepreneurship, doing things his own way. You can get 15% off an order of $40 or more by using promo code JOHN at Fox & Sons Coffee. This show is powered by a big cup of coffee I had beforehand from Fox & Sons Coffee. So please check them out. Support the sponsors of the show, guys. Come on, go do it. All right, let's get into today's show. If you joined me last week, you know that I talked exclusively about small modular reactors, SMRs. They're all the buzz in the energy space right now. With the coming energy needs and the current energy needs brought on by AI and cloud computing, with the need for many, many more data centers for all of this data that's coming online, huge power suck. Wind and solar are not going to meet the demands. People hate coal and natural gas, so nuclear is the answer, and really the only way to give you that strong, consistent base load while burning a clean energy. With that being said, after I did that show last week talking about really the 5 to, I think it was 7 market movers that I talked about, Donald Trump on Friday signed an executive order which revitalizes the nuclear industry, my friends. Really amazing stuff. He actually teased this a few weeks ago, and most people did not pick up on it. I talked about it on my Twitter feed. If you don't follow me on Twitter, please do so, at John Odermatt. And I don't have the video up in front of me, but a few weeks ago, Donald Trump talked about it. It was like on a Friday, and he said it in a very Trumpian way. He said something, this is paraphrasing, not exact. He said something to the effect of, well, we have these data centers, and they're actually going to have their own way to make power. They're going to make power right there. Never been done before. It's amazing. It's remarkable. We're going to get it done, and they'll make their own power right there. And I was like, he's talking about SMRs. He's talking about small modular reactors. It's clear that he's talking about that. I know that because I'm very familiar with the field. I've worked in the field. Seems like nobody in the industry picked up on it, and he even teased that an executive order was coming. I talked about it then. I bought more SMR stocks, not just SMR, which is NewScale. That's their stock trading ticker, SMR. Kind of weird, small modular reactor, to have for the whole field for one company to take that ticker symbol, but that's what it is. I also bought others. You know, I own Oklo, and I own some other nuclear stocks as well. Well, after he signed this executive order on Friday, stocks went crazy. They went nuts. Things went way up, and I'll go through 10 or so that really moved, and maybe 10 or so that you should start looking at. I'm not saying you should buy them. Probably the time, maybe I'm wrong, actually. I'll just say for myself, I'm not going to buy any more right now because I want to see what happens in the next couple days to weeks. Things could come down. It could present another buying opportunity again. But I will go through some of the ones that had the biggest gains last Friday. Okay, just a quick review of some of the major things that the executive order did. So one of the things that has held the nuclear industry back forever has been the long licensing timelines. Takes forever to get the technology itself licensed, and then to get the construction and operating license. Just takes a very long time, especially for new technologies. A lot of back and forth with the NRC, with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, looking at the design and, verifying the design, validating different things, questions being raised, questions being addressed, bringing in experts. It's a long process, and it's been a very long process. And one of the things that has set NewScale, the company I talked about last week, and a company I used to work for, that set them apart, is they already are much farther ahead than any other company on their licensing, their design licensing with the NRC. And it's expected, I don't know this, I'm just going based off public knowledge, that they will gain NRC approval on their standard plant design in in 2 months, sorry. So we'll see if that happens. I really have no idea if it will or not. With that being said, current licensing timelines for new reactors are like 40 months, 30 to 42 months. Trump, in his executive order, wants to bring that down to 18 months. How they do that, I have no idea. I don't know if there's enough people with the nuclear expertise to staff the NRC. Are they going to expand the NRC, budgets in order to do this? Are they going to because it's not just on the NRC side, questions going back and forth. If you're going to expedite something, you need people with these individual companies who are going through this process, answering and responding to these licensing inquiries. You need people on that side with each company in order to respond. You need manpower there to do that, which costs money. So are they going to provide funding to these companies in order to hire more people to expedite it? And there's also just the natural limit of available resources who have this expertise. A lot of the people who went through the licensing back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s in order to build the current fleet that we have of nuclear power plants, those people are long retired, and some of them consult, but a lot of them are either dead or they don't want to work anymore. So it's a tough spot that the nuclear industry is in, and I don't know if it's something that just executive order pen swipe can expedite like this. So the executive order does say bringing it down to 18 months, which would be great, and then licensing renewals shortened from 36 to 42 months down to 12 months, which I think probably more doable on that side than on the new reactor licensing, especially for new first of a kind technologies that aren't built off of existing already licensed light water reactor technology, which is what a couple of designs I talked about last week are. But several of the designs I talked about last week are totally new technology that has never been licensed before. So accelerating timelines, that's one thing that the EO is supposed to do. It's also supposed to reform radiation exposure standards. So it directs the NRC to adopt science-based radiation limits, moving away from models considered overly conservative. So the change is intended to facilitate this deployment of these advanced reactors by aligning regulations with current scientific understanding. So I really don't know a lot about this here. Maybe there have been advancements with understanding the limits of radiation, maybe are higher than our current regulations allow. I have no idea, so I'm not going to speculate on that. But that's one thing in the EO. This next one's interesting. So deployment of reactors on federal lands. The Department of Energy and Department of Defense authorized to construct nuclear reactors on federally owned lands, including military installations. The initiative seeks to leverage federal properties for strategic energy development and national security purposes. This makes sense. I mean, you know, the libertarian in me says, I don't want this happening on federal lands, but just the rational person says, well, it's going to be probably a lot easier to do something like this on federal lands from a permitting and a regulatory standpoint, probably much easier to expedite if the federal government owns the land rather than if they don't, and you have to deal with all kinds of input and resistance from people living around the reactor. If you're able to do it on something that's federally owned, it probably insulates that even more so. The other big thing was promotion of domestic nuclear fuel production. So Trump is going to invoke the Defense Production Act. You might remember that from back during COVID. That's one thing they did with regards to the vaccine production. That didn't turn out well. Hopefully this turns out better. The orders aim to bolster domestic nuclear fuel, to bolster the supply chain around nuclear fuel, which includes increasing uranium mining and enrichment activities within the U.S. to reduce reliance on foreign sources. I can't talk today. I'm too excited. Foreign sources and enhance energy security. And then the last one, well, not the last one in the EO, the last one I have here, last major point, support for advanced reactor technologies. So a little ambiguous on this, what it means. It encourages the development and deployment of advanced reactors, such as SMRs, which we've talked about. So this would include initiating pilot programs and providing support for research and development to position the U.S. as a leader in next-gen nuclear technology. Now, before I move on, this all sounds great. It all sounds awesome. This is why the stocks jumped up. But we don't really know exactly what all this means. At least I don't. Maybe there's people who do. I think a lot of this is left up to interpretation, how this will actually play out. But, you know, it goes without saying, when you have something like this happen, when you have a president of the United States put their support behind an industry like this, this is just a lot of energy going towards that industry. And a lot of government resources will be going towards this industry. So, you know, I think it does make sense as an investor, as somebody who's looking where to put your money. I think it only makes sense to look at what is the government going to be pushing? What are they going to be investing in? Both from a necessity standpoint, from an energy standpoint, maintaining the grid, supporting the energy needs of all of these data centers coming online, and also from a national security standpoint. Do you want China? They're already so far ahead with next generation nuclear reactors being built and being put in commission all the time, repeatedly, and we've had two in the past 40 years. So we're way behind, and something does need to be done. So this is something. I don't know. I think time will tell exactly if this is maybe just a first step and there's more to come. But we'll see. So next up, I did want to go through some of these market movers so you guys can have some stocks to start to watch, because I think if you do want to get involved, I think in an area, in an industry that has to grow, and if you're someone who does invest in the stock market, then you should be looking at some of these companies. First up, Lightbridge Corp, LTBR is the ticker. Current price $15.20 as of close on Friday, and they went up 42.68% on Friday. Lightbridge is a developer of advanced nuclear fuel technologies. Nano Nuclear, ticker is NNE, and they closed at $23.50. They went up 30.3%. They're a developer of advanced microreactors, and they, of course, benefited from this push to fast-track nuclear technology. Oklo, which we talked about last week, OKLO is the ticker, closed at $48.91. They were up 23.1%. This is the startup backed by Sam Altman, and, of course, they have a new, first-of-a-kind SMR design. Centrus Energy Corp, ticker LEU, and Centrus is a uranium enrichment company. So, of course, they jumped in response to this with the EU's focus on increasing nuclear fuel, access to domestic nuclear fuel. NuScale, ticker SMR, price closed at $30.24. They jumped 19.43%. NuScale, of course, like I said, they have the SMR design that is farthest ahead from a regulatory standpoint. Energy Fuels Incorporated, ticker UUUU. I love that. I don't know much about this one. They closed at $5.40. They were up 19.56%. They are a uranium and rare earth producer. Uranium Energy Corp, ticker UEC. They closed at $6.45, and they were up 24.42%. They are a major U.S. uranium producer. Cameco Corp, ticker CCJ, closed at $58.69, up up 11.2%. They are one of the world's largest uranium miners. And Denison Mines Corp, ticker DNN, they closed at $1.68, up 12%. They are involved in uranium exploration and development. And Ur Energy Inc., ticker URG, they closed at 87 cents, up 22%, and they are a uranium mining company. So lots to look into. Honestly, 5 of these I don't know a lot about. 5 of them I watch pretty closely on a daily basis. So if you're interested in it, watch it. One of the reasons I talk about this stuff is because this is an interest to me. So I'm hoping that, my audience enjoys this as well. And I'm also hoping to attract people to this show who have similar interests, because why wouldn't I want to network and get to know people who are, in this industry? And because this is a fast growing industry. This is an industry that's going to take off. Okay. So moving on, I'm actually going to skip my next topic. My next topic, I was going to talk about, so TerraPower has they're building what's the word I'm looking for? A test reactor. They're a natrium nuclear power plant near Kemmerer, if I'm saying that right, Wyoming. And I was going to talk about, things having to do with private security, and I'll just touch on this briefly. But there is something happening with this in Wyoming with this TerraPower reactor their Natrium reactor, where Wyoming law doesn't allow for private security forces to have any sort of civil protections, which I think sounds pretty normal, right? But apparently a lot of other states and states that already have existing reactors have these civil protections in place for private security forces that are protecting these reactors. And the concern in Wyoming is they need legislation in order to allow this same type of civil protection from civil liability for their private security forces. And it's just something that I really hadn't thought about a lot. Like from a libertarian standpoint, it's interesting because, you know, private security, you want corporations to utilize private security, right? You don't want like a government, the military or police to be protecting a corporate entity, right? But at the same time, aren't you really doing the same thing if you're taking a private security force and then you're giving it the civil liability protections that a government force or a police force would have to uphold these federal laws, these Nuclear Regulatory Commission laws? But the only difference is instead of the government paying for it, the corporation's paying for it. And like from a national security standpoint, I do understand why, you know, you do need to protect nuclear power plants. You do need to have these protections in place. The reason I'm skipping this for today is because I just don't know enough about it. And it's something that really I just started thinking about and learning about within the past couple days. So just wanted to put it out there, something that I had on my radar. I'll link to in the show notes as well, so you can read about it yourself. Okay, next up, totally different. We're changing directions here. Want to talk about Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson, you know, everyone knows who he is. I don't need to explain his history. Obviously, rose to fame from his appearances on Joe Rogan. Famous for speaking out against the use of the proper gender pronouns, speaking out against that. This was, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years ago now. Time flies. But so that happened, rose to fame. And then another thing that he's done is he's become famous for his Bible lectures. And I think he did a Bible lecture. I know he's done them on YouTube, but I think he did a tour with Bible lectures, teaching on the Bible. The interesting thing is he's never professed to be a Christian. He's never said that he believes any of the stories in the Bible actually occurred. He talks about it from a physiological perspective, from a evolutionary physiology. Wow, I cannot talk today. Perspective. So he's looking at it culturally, right? He's looking at these as foundational truths that are being conveyed through these stories in the Bible. And he's teaching on how we can learn from those stories conveyed in the Bible today. Not saying the stories actually happened, not saying that he believes that Jesus Christ actually walked this earth and was crucified, died for our sins on the cross, and resurrected, rose to heaven, and through belief in him and belief in the resurrection, that we can have forgiveness of sins, something that all humans are cursed with is sin, something we cannot escape. But Jesus coming back, went to the cross, and he bared the cost for all of our sins. That is what Christians believe, but Jordan Peterson has never said that he believes that. Now, why is this important? Jordan Peterson was recently on a YouTube debate where the title was One Christian versus 20 Atheists. guess who the one Christian was supposed to be? Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has never said that he's a Christian. So you can see where this is a bit of a problem. So I'm going to play a clip from it, and then we'll talk about it. So this is Jordan Peterson on this YouTube show that I guess they do. I think this is a Daily Wire thing they do. Maybe not. No, it's not. It's Jubilee. So I'm not sure of the background of it, but I've seen clips like this before, where it's one person with one belief set versus 20 others with another belief set, and they're all sitting in a circle, and they'll come one at a time and take on this one person sitting there. And I can never find. Here we go. So as I pull this up here, all right, let me put this on the big screen for you so you can see it. There we go. So here's just a very brief clip. And if you don't have the video, it really doesn't matter.
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay, you're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either
it,
you're a
'cause
Christian
I won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression
private.
I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something. You are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
I gotta say that kid smoked Jordan Peterson, but he walked into it. Interesting thing here. Title of the video was One Christian versus 20 Atheists. They changed the name. They changed the name after this clip went viral to Jordan Peterson versus 20 Atheists, which is ridiculous. I'll scroll down. I'm scrolling down a little bit. You can see the old, you can see the previous one here. One Christian versus 20 Atheists featuring Jordan Peterson. This is on Jubilee. It's their, I don't know. Anyway, I thought there was another title there. Anyway, so you can see the significance of this, right? Jordan Peterson, I don't know if they didn't tell him what he was walking into. I don't know if he is just such an egomaniac that he thinks it doesn't matter if I'm a Christian or not. I can defend Christianity against 20 atheists. It just doesn't make a lick of sense. And I just don't understand why he does this. And I got to be honest with you. I'm really conflicted on Jordan Peterson and him talking about Christianity. Like, from the perspective, like, I understand that I know people who became interested in the Bible, became interested in the stories in the Bible because of Jordan Peterson. At the same time, I'm sure there are people who came into it as atheists, came into his Bible lectures as atheists, and listened to them and took lessons away in the way that he's teaching, which is not from a Christian perspective. And maybe they took those lessons away and applied them to their life, but they're missing out on the entire reason to be a Christian, and that is faith in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, putting your faith in him so you can have forgiveness of your sins and come into relationship with God, and when you die, be in the presence of God, because that sin is not between you and God. Jesus's blood erases that. And Jordan Peterson doesn't teach that. So my fear is that he is leading people down a path where they can get something from Christianity without getting the essence, the truth of Christianity. So that's why I have a problem with Jordan Peterson. But at the same time, this is why I'm conflicted. At the same time, without a doubt, there are people he has led to become curious about Christianity, who started reading the Bible, who became consumed by God's word, and God grabbed their heart and led them. And God led them to him, to his word, to the church, to community with other Christians. So it's tough. I mean, God can use anybody to lead people to him. He can use the worst person in the world to lead you to Christ. So I don't know. I just think it's hypocritical to be doing this, what Jordan Peterson is doing. We know very much in the Bible, God does not like hypocrites, and he should not be going out there labeling himself a defender of Christianity when he himself cannot say definitively if he is a Christian or not. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, next up, last topic for the day, and then that'll be a wrap. Something totally different. Once again, like my transitions, this just popped up right before I started recording. I saw this on X, and I just had to talk about it because this is just totally crazy. There's a video on X right now. I'll link to it in the show notes page at Lions of Liberty of Emmanuel Macron, or is it Macron? I say Macron, you say Macron. I know they're different things. Getting his face shoved in from his wife right before they get off a plane in Vietnam. I cannot talk today. This is crazy. It's Memorial Day, something about it. So I'm going to show the clip, and then I just got a couple brief things to say, and then I'll send you on your way so you can have a nice barbecue, hamburgers, hot dogs with your family, enjoy a couple cold ones. So let's bring it up on the screen. For this one, you should see it. So if you're not watching live, go to Twitter, go to YouTube, go to Google, go to your favorite AI, type in Emmanuel Macron's wife shoving him in the face, and it'll pop up. So here we go. Let's roll the tape. There's no sound, I don't think. So I'll just kind of talk you through it. If you missed that it's at the very beginning. I'll rewind. Boom, right in the face. Just barely in view. He's standing there at first. You can see him. This clip doesn't show. They pull the gate back a little bit, and he's just standing there. And then you see a hand come in wearing a red shirt, or a red blazer. And then you see when they get off the plane. Let me stop right there before I go on. It was funny. After he's shoved in the face, he turns to the door of the plane that is open, and he smiles like, aha, you didn't see anything there. That didn't actually happen. And then when they got off the plane, after he was shoved in the face by someone with a red shirt or a red suit jacket, you see Emmanuel Macron, the French president, walking off. There's a replay of it. There's a replay. And he smiles and waves. He walks behind the door. Here they come off the plane. There he is in his suit. And behind him, his wife wearing a red blazer. Incriminating. Incriminating as always. And it's something they're walking. They're going to hold hands. They're fighting. They're fighting. They're holding hands. They're mad at him. I wonder what he said. Abusive relationship. Sad. Extremely sad. So that's what happened. And a couple things on this. So on the Twitter post, Macron has since come out and he said, "There's a video showing me joking and teasing my wife." And somehow that becomes a sort of geoplanetary catastrophe, with people even coming up with theories to explain it. Okay, first of all, there's no theories about this. You are not joking with your wife. There's not a couple on earth, married or otherwise, in a healthy relationship where the wife shoves their face and physically pushes the husband's face back so much that you actually fall backwards like that. There's not a healthy relationship that is a joking thing to do. So that's insane. That's absurd. This is an actual video. I know there's a ton of AI out there. No one's saying this is AI. This actually happened. This obviously, this guy's in a abusive relationship. Now, this relationship in itself has its own questions around it. It's its own conspiracies around it. You have Emmanuel Macron, who met his wife, Brigitte, I don't know how you say it, I'm not French, when he was 15 years old. 15 years old. I forget the circumstances. I think she was his teacher or something like that. Imagine if that happened in the United States and you had a sitting president whose wife was that much older and they met when he or she was 15. It's crazy. The rumors circulating around this, and Candace Owens has done a lot of research into it. I know Candace Owens, divisive figure, but she's done some good work on this. So she has done some work around this story to show that his wife, Brigitte, I don't know how to say it, is actually a man who's transitioned into a woman. And she has challenged this theory. She's saying, please disprove me. Just provide a photo of her as a child, which nobody can do. Nobody can provide a photo of the French president's wife as a child. Think about that. So easy to disprove. Just provide a photo. It's all you have to do, and they can't do it. So I don't know if she's a man. I don't really care. Well, I guess I should care, because why would they put someone like this in power who's in an obvious relationship like this where something's being hidden? Because maybe he's blackmailed. That's why they would put someone like that in a position of power, because they can hold this over his head and make him into a puppet. So we should all care about stuff like that. And we should all encourage the French president's wife to squash out these rumors and just provide a photo of herself as a child. That's all I got for today. I've left you on your Memorial Day weekend with a conspiracy. Now, as someone who is anti-war, as someone who hates war, I don't want any more dead soldiers, any more dead American soldiers. I don't want any more dead soldiers from any country. So I don't want any more people, any more fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, grandparents to have to come to Memorial Day and look into the future and look at more and more soldiers dying and being remembered on Memorial Day. I'm fine to look back on the past and the wars that have happened. They've happened. They're in the past. People lost their lives, and we should think of them today, even though if we disagree with the wars they lost their lives in. We should think about those people that lost their lives. That is a tragedy. Any loss of life is an absolute tragedy. But let's remember also today, we should stop the tragedies. We should do everything we can to stop bloodshed, to stop wars, to stop killing. I'll see y'all next week. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. It's Monday. I guess it's not technically the weekend, but enjoy your time with family. Enjoy your time with friends. See y'all next week. In the meantime, always remember to keep your head up and those fires of liberty burn.